Hello, everybody. Welcome to the very first NOS live streamed event. My name is Emily Gottlieb. I'm the Chief Executive of the National Opera Studio, and it's my great pleasure to welcome viewers all around the world to this In Conversation evening, which is being broadcast through YouTube. And for those of you who don't know about the National Opera Studio, we are the UK's leading training organisation for opera. We are in partnership with the 6 main opera companies in the UK, which include the Royal Opera House, English National Opera, Glyndebourne, Opera North, Welsh National Opera and Scottish Opera. And we were set up about over 40 years ago with Arts Council England, and we have over 625 alumni all around the world. Hopefully some of them are watching us. And each year we select around 16 young artists to join our training programme. We offer 9 months of intensive training and we prepare them to enter the profession, and I hope you'll hear some of that today. What makes us so successful is undoubtedly the quality of our coaching, and such as those here tonight. We have the marvellous Della Jones, one of our regular coaches, and it's going to be my pleasure to introduce you to her this evening. Interviewing Della is the soprano Alexandra Lowe. Alex is a current young artist at the National Opera Studio, and next season she is going to be joining the Royal Opera House as a Yetta Parker young artist. So we're very happy to welcome Alex onto her first interview. As mentioned, we are live on YouTube, which gives you the opportunity to pose your own questions to Della. The NOS team is standing by to receive your questions on the YouTube live chat screen. Or alternatively, you can email them to info@nationaloperastudio.org.uk, and the team will then feed these to Alex through the magic of technology. The National Opera Studio is delighted to make this event available for free. However, unlike many arts organisations around the world, the effect of this pandemic has impacts on us, of course. And if you're able to make a donation to the studio's work and help us support the next generation of operatic talent, please visit www.nationaloperastudio.org.uk/donate today. And all that's left for me is to hand over now to Alex and to wish you a very pleasant evening. Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Della, for doing this evening.
Thank you so much, Emily. Yeah, amazing to be here. A very big welcome to the wonderful Della Jones, and of course to all of you who have tuned in. It's really grateful that you're watching. It's probably just my whole family. But anyway, if there's any of you out there, you know, across the world, please do send in your questions because I'll put them to Della, and we want to know all about her. So first of all, Della, nice choice of colour.
Hello, everybody.
Can you see me?
No.
No, we have had a slight problem here. So I can see you, you can't see me.
That's fine, that's fine.
But nice choice of colour because we're both in blue, so very matchy-matchy. So great, look amazing. Great, so I just wondered where you're calling from this evening.
I'm calling from my music room in Surrey.
In Surrey?
Yes.
Oh, amazing. I thought you'd be in Wales.
No, I don't live in Wales, I live in Surrey.
Brilliant. So I've got my first question ready for you, and it is, of course, how did you first get into the wonderful world of opera?
Well, I started singing I think I did my first concert at the age of 4.
Wow.
When I say concert, it was a little thing that I sang in church, and went to my very first opera about the same time, which was at the Gwyn Hall in Neath with the Caddixton Amateur Operatic Society, a very, very, very good society. And the first opera I saw was Madame Butterfly. And we sat in row A, and I can remember a little bit about it, but I also, I don't know if I was told this or I do vaguely remember it, being very taken up with the bassoon player.
Really?
So I have no idea if it was the person or the instrument, but apparently I was fixated by the bassoon.
Amazing. Was he good looking or something?
I can't. I was 4, Alex. I was 4.
I suppose if you're 4, then yeah, okay, fine.
From then I was I was hooked really on opera, and started doing some charity concerts and singing Ritorno Vincitore at the age of 12. Totally ridiculous, totally.
Amazing. That's incredible. And so were your parents musical at all, or how did sort of you get into it in the first place? Because I didn't start until much later.
Right, well, I started playing the piano when I was 2, picking out tunes. My mum, unfortunately, is not with us anymore, but she was a brilliant, brilliant piano player, pianist and teacher. And so I started piano lessons with her, and then gradually started singing and adored it, and sang it in school like everyone does, and concerts. And then I joined the West Glamorgan Youth Orchestra playing clarinet, and did a lot of concert work with them. So from the age of, I suppose, about 15, 16, I was quite used to singing with an orchestra, which was an enormous experience. I didn't realize it at the time because it was, for me, natural. But it was that fantastic opportunity, so that when I went to college and then started singing with concert work with orchestras, it wasn't strange to me, and that was an enormous experience.
That's amazing. And so you say you went to college. I believe you went to the Royal College of Music. Is
That's
that
right?
And you went from living in the valleys of South Wales to the hustle and bustle of London. Mm-hmm. So can you share a little bit about how that all worked out?
Well, I actually won a scholarship to the Royal College when I was 16, but my parents wouldn't let me go until I was 18, quite rightly. I was desperate to go, but quite absolutely right. And it was a natural transition. It felt very comfortable. I had a lot of friends there, and I just adored college life. I did a GRSM degree course, and for 3 years, and then I went to the opera school there. Amazing. And I remember very clearly getting on the stage of the Royal College of Music. I mean, it was the older opera stage then. It wasn't the new Britain Theatre now. And just standing there and thinking, this is where I belong.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes,
and so,
nice moment for me.
Yeah, and so did you ever have any doubts then that this was for you, that you wanted to be on the stage for life? And
no.
Never.
No. Yeah. There was one decision I had to make, because I did joint first at college, piano and voice. And my piano teacher actually said, you're going to have to decide which one you want to do, because for the level I don't think I would have ever been a concert pianist. However, I had to make that choice of not practicing the piano for 5 hours a day and concentrating only vocally. Yeah. And there was actually no big decision, because I knew I couldn't give up wanting to do opera.
No, well,
and concert work as well, not only opera, but mainly.
Mm. Amazing. And so you were at the Guildhall Opera School, I'm guessing, and then, you know...
No, the Royal College of Music.
Oh, sorry. That's where I was.
Oh, please.
Royal College of Music, I'm sorry. Yeah. So you were at that opera school, and then you decided, well, you didn't decide. I want to ask, like, as a young singer, we're always sort of looking for our break, like, you know, what's going to make our career. And so from there, from when you were at college,
yes.
What was your sort of break, and how did you get going?
Right. Well, after the 2 years at the opera school there,
yeah,
I was very lucky to have won the Kathleen Ferrier scholarship, and with the money, I went and studied at the Grand Théâtre in Geneva. There was at the Centre Lyrique, there was a special opera school there. And whilst I was there for 2 years, and whilst there, covered roles as well as the actual school itself putting on operas.
Yeah.
And I was understudying Cenerentola, and Teresa Berganza was actually singing it, and she was ill for a dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
And luckily, my advice to everybody, if you're covering, learn it absolutely. Because one morning they rang up and said, Madam Alexandra is not very well. Can you step in tonight? It was a dress rehearsal. I was very excited, and I said, yeah, sure. Oh,
that's amazing.
Well, yes, I had nerves, but not the nerves as one gets older.
Of course. And so I was going to ask you actually about nerves and things. Obviously, you've performed at all of the major houses all over the world, and had this incredible career. But did you ever get nervous? And if you did, like, how did you deal with those?
I don't think there was. I can't remember one performance when I wasn't nervous.
Wow.
I think it's sometimes you're terrified, sometimes it's exciting nerves, and sometimes you think, why am I doing this? But I think everybody gets that. And once you start, it's fine. It's fine. And it's breath control, breathing, calming yourself down. But there's always that adrenaline excitement to get over the nerves and to do what you want to do.
Yeah. I think the key is always to sort of, when you go through all these different experiences, growing up and becoming an opera singer, I suppose, there are some things that are going to challenge you and threaten you a little bit more than others, and you've got to throw yourself at it.
But absolutely, you think, sometimes, and in an opera or in an oratorio or whatever, you think, oh my goodness, there is a passage or an aria coming up. I'll be glad when that maybe, or I've sung that note properly, etc. But you just have to, go with the flow, really, and not worry about it. And the other thing is, I think, like in everything, like in quiz shows, like everything, if you make a mistake, don't think, oh, that was a dreadful note. Just forget about it and carry on.
Yeah, like instant forgiveness, it happened, and move on.
Yes.
Definitely. So Della, we've actually got our first question in, and this is from Sarah. I've got a feeling it's from my friend Sarah Guilford. And she says, what do you think are the main differences between now and when you were beginning your career? So the different challenges for young singers today.
I think there are more singers. There's more. Yes, more singers around. Some of the challenges are the same. There are fewer possibilities of contract singing with companies because these have cut down. However, the world is smaller, apart from this dreadful time now, obviously. And so travel is easier, continents are nearer, and there are more opportunities everywhere, more singers, but I think more opportunities as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm feeling anyway. I mean, there are so many more singers, but also I feel like opera is going in a direction where there just seems to be more and more ideas going around. And
yes, and it's normal. It's not elitist. It's normal, and more opportunities are places like the National Opera Studio and other places, but that's our concern, is that there's the ability to have coaching in all languages, movement, every single thing, which is so important to have the different language coaching. That's something that didn't necessarily happen when I started off at all.
Great. Of course, I mean, that was actually going to be something that I asked you about, if you could turn back time and give yourself some advice to like when you were starting out, what would that be? Would it be to focus on languages or?
Well, when I was in Geneva, I did French. It's not as good as it was, but I wish I had possibly, learned more languages. And I tell you, the thing that I would advise people too, even if you can't master the whole language, it's to learn the vocabulary. Because my secret about if you have a very, very, very good vocabulary in whatever language, and you learn some verbs, obviously, then you can always speak in the present and say yesterday or tomorrow and get by.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. It's what one.
That's just literally for conversation. But for the actual text, the more languages you learn, the better. So that when you understand the meaning of every single word, yes, you can have it translated, every word, but to actually have that flow of languages is very, very important.
Yeah, it's being able to think when you understand the structure of how the language works as well, to be able to think in the character, in the moment, in the flow of the language. It's really...
Exactly. There's a huge difference when you understand every nuance of the text.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. So we have got another question in for you, and this is from PJ Casting. And they say, have you ever had any setbacks, particularly challenging learning curves?
Setbacks. Well, I won the Perrier as a soprano, and then when I went to Geneva, realized that where my voice lay, the part was a lyric mezzo. It was not a soprano. And then when I got to a certain age, there was the mezzo. There was, because I had a pretty good bottom register and a pretty good top register, sort of, and you get sometimes that hole in the middle. And yes, then that was fixed by singing teacher Paul Farrington. And yeah, and sometimes learning curves, yes, you get a role and you think, oh, this is tricky, but then you break it down. And sometimes I used to think, oh my goodness, how many pages in this? I've got to learn this number of pages today. And you have a routine.
Amazing.
But everybody has a setback, a vocal setback now and again, or an emotional one. You just have to find the right teacher, get on with it.
Oh, amazing. I've got a little thing here, it says TK22GE, not sure what that is, sends love from Berlin and says Della was their inspiration for becoming a singer.
Oh, bless her, that's Tiki Tutu. That's my goddaughter, Christine, who's a singer. Yeah, bless her.
Is this code or something? Like
No, Tiki, no, when she was a little girl, she called herself Tiki. So I called her Tutu.
Oh, that's incredible. Amazing. So, Della, before we move on to your teaching side of things, I just want to ask you one thing.
Yes.
What was your favourite role of all time?
I thought you might ask me that. It's terribly hard for various reasons, different ones. I can't say a favourite. One of them certainly would be Ariadante.
Lovely.
The title role in that. The other one, because it was in such a magnificent place, was the Glücksarmid, which I did in the Palace of Versailles, in the Opera House there, rehearsed there for 4 weeks. And that was lovely. And also, oh, it has to be Cenerentola as well.
Yeah. I bet that would be amazing for you.
Barbieri, but then I did so many Barbieris. If I had to sing Una Voce once more, I would have, flipped. But amazing. so many, and yeah, Poppea, difficult to say.
Yeah, you're so lucky to have sort of done them all now. Like, I often get asked that question, what's your favourite opera? But I feel because I've only just really started, I can never answer it. So I think you did really well in answering with a few.
Oh, thank you.
Brilliant. So we've got a little question here from Ramald. And they say, what advice would you give to young singers who may currently be out of work whilst their voice develops? And how would you advise them to best spend their time?
Okay. Always a tricky time if there is no work. But the thing is, spend your time learning as much repertoire as you can of the roles that suit you. Get a good coach, get a good singing teacher, work as if you are preparing for a role, for a concert, for an opera, and actually be sure to learn every single word and translation of the text so that you know all about it. And also, not only if you want to do opera or whatever, I suggest that you learn and build up a repertoire of song, be in whatever language, in any language, German, Russian, Czech, French, English, just build up a solid repertoire, which is very necessary, and you'll have that forever. It's something actually I didn't do when I was starting off. I didn't build up a repertoire of recital work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I found that, actually this time that we've got at the moment is an absolute godsend. It's just incredible for that very reason, that I can actually, I've started learning Schubert songs, and I'm, I can't remember the last time I actually did that. It's an incredible time to do.
Terribly important, because, for those singers who maybe don't have any work, or at the moment, there will come a time, hopefully, that you will be very, very busy. So as I know you're busy, but when you have this time, just get things under the belt.
Very. So obviously you're an incredible teacher. I have experience of that. You brighten up my day when I get a session with you.
You're very
and we're also grateful to you as well at the National Opera Studio. And I just wondered if you could tell us how you got into teaching in the first place.
Well, I call myself a coach, not a teacher, because I just do. It was when I started thinking that I didn't want to perform anymore.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to, for no reason really. And well, it was, if I said I'd had enough, that sounded terrible. That sounds awful. I'd had enough of performing. And it was my husband who unfortunately has died, but he said, why don't you do some coaching? Because you've got things to offer people. And I thought, I'll be no good at it. And I started doing it and thoroughly enjoyed it. And then Mark Shanahan, director of music at the Opera Studio, invited me to come and do some coaching at the Opera Studio. And
Amazing.
5 or 6 years later, here I am.
So actually,
I really love it. I really, really love it.
So actually, would you say that you've only been teaching sort of in the last 5 years?
Yes.
That's incredible, because I must say, like, you are really good. And I would have expected you to have been doing that from like maybe, maybe like a couple of decades, Della.
No, I have. No, I'm very new. But it's lovely, and it's if I can feel that I'm helping somebody, you always hope that you can help someone in their journey.
Yeah. Well, I have a question here from ex-NOS repetiteur Benedict Kearns.
Mm-hmm.
And he asks this question: have you buttoned your shoes today? Can you tell us a little bit more about that, please?
Oh, yes. Well, it's funnily enough, something my mum taught me when I was having piano lessons. When you have a triplet in music, if you do button my shoe, you'll never get it wrong. You'll never get that triplet wrong. Okay, if you've just got a triplet on its own, fine. But if you've got a triplet against other rhythms in the orchestra or piano, it's quite easy to fall into the wrong pattern. And then if, for example, in Handel, a lot of Baroque pieces, if you have lots and lots of triplets, you do button my button, 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 my shoe. And it works. And it works on every instrument as well.
Amazing. I know that you...
I haven't buttoned my shoe today.
That's absolutely amazing. And so do you teach, or should we say coach, sorry?
Yeah, thank you.
Do you coach at other institutions in the UK? And do you do different ages as well? What are you like? Have you sort of coached some beginners?
Not really. I coach at the Welsh International Academy of Voice. I sometimes go to the Royal Northern College of Music. And also I, for 3 years, have been going to New Zealand for the Wanganui Opera Studio, opera school there.
Amazing.
And I have a lot of private students, young singers, not students, at home as well.
Of course. And of course, you must, I know that you have such a wide range and knowledge of lots and lots of different repertoire. And of course, as a mezzo-soprano, you know, it must be incredible to pass on the tricks of the trade to other mezzo-sopranos. But, you know, I mean, I can say you're great with the soprano repertoire as well, but how do you find teaching other voice types? Is there, you know, how do you approach that sort of philosophy?
Well, it's exactly the same for every voice. That's why I call myself a coach and not a teacher. Yeah. I don't interfere with the actual technical production of the voice, although inevitably it creeps into coaching. But music is music, and it's no different for me which voice I'm teaching.
No. Do you find that you've you know, if somebody wanted to start teaching, you know, in their 30s, for example, I mean, you know, as I leave the National Opera Studio and start my career, would you think it was a good idea to be teaching alongside my career? Do you think I could learn from that, or do you think it's
a lot of people do? And I mean, some things now in the last, say, 6 years, things that when I hear other people and I coach them, I think, why didn't I do that 20 years ago? It's very interesting, actually. And yes, a lot of people I know perform and coach as well.
Yeah, brilliant. And so, to the National Opera Studio, what draws you to that institution particularly?
I thoroughly believe in all it stands for. It's obviously totally professional, totally, but it cares. It's, when I say it's like a family, the people, the Emily and the staff, everybody there care very. I'm not going to name everybody's name because I'm bound to leave some. Everybody cares and looks after the young artists, the singers and the repetiteurs. There's always guidance, help, and of course the opportunities for everyone, affiliated as it is to all the opera companies. There are showings, there are auditions set up. It's an amazing place, and it gives me great happiness to be there.
Yeah, I can
say it's very vibrant. It's very vibrant. There's so much going on. It's so many opportunities for people to perform and to present their skills, well, all your skills, you lovely people, to the opera companies and to the public.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's sad that we can't be there at the moment, isn't it?
Very, very, very sad. But from what I gather from all you young artists, everybody is buckling down and actually working at home and getting on with things. Yeah. And the thing is, you must, all try and maintain the confidence and not to get bogged down by this awful isolation.
Yeah. How have you found teaching in isolation, Della? Because we've been doing some of it, and from our end, I mean, my end, it's just been fantastic. But what's your experience been like?
Well, it's been very new to me because, as you know, I am a bit of a technophobe. And so it's been quite a revelation that I can get to Zoom and Skype, as most of my friends will tell you. But I find it all right. I mean, I don't know how you all find it, but I quite enjoy it. Not as much as live, naturally, but it seems to work well because you all have the backing tracks that the other coaches and repetiteurs have been playing, which makes a difference because, and I don't understand this, but when we speak over on the online, or say, it's fine. Once you play the piano, there's a delay.
Yeah, it's quite difficult, isn't it? But
and that is difficult. So if I play for you here, and that's impossible. But you all have the backing tracks, which everybody.
We're okay, aren't we? And do you think then that people might continue to do it, or do you think we'll scrap it all as soon as we can?
Well, I will. It's always much better to be live.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Of course it is. But if one has to, one has to. Certainly, if someone, I've had people not from the opera studio abroad that I can Skype or, which is very useful.
I know, it is good.
I learned how to do it.
Let's do it. I mean, things are changing all the time, aren't they? So
Yes.
The holds. So I've got a little question for you, Della. Of course, I'm in a really lucky position. I've got a piano here where I'm staying, and I've been practicing a lot, but I've had a little bit of trouble with my neighbours, and they, told me to shut up, basically. What advice would you give to singers that are struggling with the same thing? They might be.
I'll tell you a story about this. Quite a number of years ago, I was in a house which was attached to another house, and admittedly it was about midnight, and I was singing and practicing, and the people next door said, we really were making far too much noise. And I said, a lot of people pay good money for that, so count your blessings.
That's amazing.
That isn't they were very nice about it, and I was a bit naughty of doing it at 12 o'clock at night. But the thing is, the solution is just to speak to them nice. Well, of course you would, and just say, look, could you give me the hours when I can practice?
Yeah, exactly.
Could we work it out in an agreement? It is difficult, but yes, work out a sort of a timetable where you can say, right, from then to then, may I work?
Yeah. It's quite difficult, isn't it, at the moment? I'm guessing a lot of people are actually on their own and maybe feeling a little bit demoralized and, just not really sure about how to cheer themselves up in this strange time. So you always seem to be on really good form, Della. So can you share some tips about, how to stay on the up?
Well, yes, it's just, I'm not always up. Sometimes I'm not very often down. You've just got to think, okay, let's get on with it.
Yeah.
Be positive. Whatever you're going through with the isolation, a problem, an emotional problem, it will end. It will end. And sometimes think, right, if I get through the next hour, the one afterwards will be better.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the next day. If you have a loss in a family or anything, you think, right, I can't face it. Right, just go the hour, get through the day, and then the next day will be better. And likewise, if you're in isolation on your own and it's hard to get down to work, just think, okay, I'll start this afternoon at a certain time and I will learn this.
Yeah, so it's trying to have a little bit of structure as well.
Some structure and positivity. Can't always happen positivity, but just try for it.
Yeah, if you try and convince yourself that it's going to be a good day, it might just turn out that way.
That often is the case. Absolutely.
Brilliant. So Della, we've had another question in.
Yes.
And this is for both of us, apparently. But the question is, have you ever performed a role that you struggle to relate or empathise with? And how do you overcome this hurdle?
I don't think I have. No, I think if you actually, when you're asked to do a role and you read, obviously the text, the background on it, a lot of background on it, and you become absorbed, like an actor, you become absorbed with the character. And you've got to find your personality within that particular role.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got to inhabit it, and then it inhabits you, and then you become that person. But of course, on the operatic stage, you always have to have that little, when I say detachment, you can't emotionally get involved.
Yeah.
That's what rehearsals are for, the emotional involvement, to know how you create it. Yes, you can feel these emotions when you're singing the role, but you've got to keep slightly cool away from it, because if the performer gets too upset or too involved, then it doesn't convey, it doesn't come over the footlights into the audience.
No, it can stall you, can't it? And it can become troubling for the voice.
I can tell you, I learned a very big lesson in that, again, when I was at the Royal College, and we were doing excerpts and things, and I happened to be doing Small Angelica. only an exit, senza mamma. And when she's told that a child is dead, and I screamed at Nan's costume, very dramatic, and I was able to do a very good feint, and I just collapsed to the floor, being enjoying every moment of the drama. And when I got up to sing Senza Mama, no voice.
Oh.
Because I had got so involved, screamed right on the chords. Big lesson learned.
So you do all of that in the rehearsal room and take it as far as you can, say, and then save yourself when you're actually in.
That doesn't mean to say you can't get involved in a performance. Of course you can, but there has to be that slight detachment, because you are the character. And so you have to just remain, but you also have to deliver a voice.
Of course. And so, you know, if you were going to go, you know, you're turning up for your first day of rehearsals.
Yes.
How much sort of an idea would you have given yourself for that character? Would you go with quite an open mind, and just let the experience unfold and the character unfold as you go along? Or would you go with a sort of quite a set, strong?
I think you have to, when you've been studying it and learned it, and you should turn up in your first rehearsal knowing it all, you have to have a concept of what you believe is that character.
Yes.
But of course, when you get to the rehearsal, you might find that the producer, the director, has a totally different concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that's what rehearsals are about: discussion, talking, and then sometimes you have to change your interpretation completely.
Yeah. And do you think, you know, have you been put in a situation where you've just really hated the way the director's taken you in the character, and you've thought, actually, I'm just going to leave that and do my own thing when it comes to it? Or have you always been very good at obeying? I think you've got to honor the director, or if there's something you really, really don't agree with, just say, look, this has happened to me. I'm not going to say with whom. You can just say, I just cannot make this work. Could you help me? Yeah. And then they might, well, they did say, right, why isn't it working? You show me how to do it, and maybe I can copy you or whatever. But then, well, it's not working for me because, and normally there's a happy conclusion. Yeah, he has his concept of it too. But this is, you know, it's where you all come together. It's everybody wants it to work for the other side, for directors to singers, for conductors as well. Yeah, I mean, same thing there. You can have an idea of a tempo, and then the conductor can say, I don't agree with that. Or it has to be a compromise, I think, between everyone. Great. And I've got a question here from Hannah, and she says, who have you learnt the most from in your career? I wonder, does she mean the singer or? I mean, I'm thinking, if I think of that question, I'm guessing that you've learned an awful lot from yourself, and you've grown and you've developed as you go along. You learn a lot from yourself, and actually you learn a lot from your colleagues, and yes, the various people you're working with. Yeah. And you play off each other, but you do learn from yourself. I think that's a very good point, Alex. Yes. Yeah, it's good fun, isn't it? So if there was a very young singer, say around the age of 16, you know, they've been singing a little bit, maybe they've been doing a little bit of musical theatre, maybe they've been in a choir, and they're thinking, oh, you know, I think I sound a bit like I could do a bit of opera here. What advice would you give to them? Is there a sort of next step, or is there anything that they should be listening to get them into it and to get them exposed to it? 16 is a little young, although having said that, having sung... You were 4, Della, let's just remember. Sorry? You were 4. And that wasn't singing opera at 4. No, I know. No, the thing is to just never push at that age of 16 or at any age. Never push the ball. Learn things that you are capable of doing. Find a good teacher, but who's not going to
who's not going to push it too much, which depends. I mean, especially for men, young men at 16.
Yeah.
You know, you can't. You don't know where the voice is, hardly know where the voice is going then. But listen to lots of music and get lots of songs, lead, everything. So you're never stretching yourself beyond the capability. Because 16 is quite young to be thinking of going in for, not to be thinking about, not too young to be thinking about it, but too young to be doing it.
Okay, so, you know, I mean, starting with the sort of 24 Italian songs and arias book, and
yes, excellent
songs, and maybe some vocal exercises and things like that.
But there's so much, you know, Haydn's song. There's so many beautiful, beautiful songs. Sure, but the, as you said, the 24 Italian, they're such lovely songs and very good for the technique.
Yeah, because they don't go too high or too low, so just
exactly.
Place, yeah.
And the thing is, enjoy it.
Yeah, I was always told to sing lots of Mozart and Handel.
Well, yes, absolutely. Depends what Handel and what Mozart, but yeah, it can't harm you. It cannot harm you.
I know. And so, let me just read this question. Oh, it says
okay.
you may need to improvise a few questions. Well, good, because I've got one for you, Della. I was actually just about to ask you about coloratura, because, you know, whenever I think, oh, you know, who can I take this coloratura to, I think of you. You know, you've given me so many tips of how to sort of process the runs mentally. I wonder if you could maybe share a few tips on how to do that.
Yes, the thing about it is, yes, okay, your voice needs to be flexible to do it, but most voices are. Never take the whole florid passage in its entirety. Break it down. First of all, find the melodic, the bel canto line, because in every florid passage, there is a tune. Find that tune, sing it, legato. Then break it down into little passages. Say you do the first note of each group, then maybe the first and third. Break it up into so many combinations so that the brain isn't telling the chords, the poles, or telling the support what to do. You're on an automatic muscle memory. So you know exactly where you're going, because half the energy that you lose in long florid passages is because you're thinking of them as thousands of little black notes instead of thinking of the journey. I always think of it as like a hurdler. I've said this to so many people. When you're doing hurdles, not that I ever did, but when you're doing hurdles, you know exactly how many steps are between each hurdle.
Yeah.
But when you run the race, you're only aware of the last hurdle. Likewise, when you're learning a coloratura passage, you break it up into small sections, put them together bit by bit. It takes time, but believe me, it works. I've never known this to fail for anyone, and you'll never lose it, and you will always remember those runs, always. And yeah, and it becomes so natural.
Yeah, well, I can say it does. I mean, it really, really helped me. I remember doing the runs in Mitradi with you.
You did, and very well you did them too.
And yeah, just the idea of starting the sort of phrases at different points, not the most obvious points in the run.
Exactly.
Just,
also
it up a bit.
Right, and mentally altering the phrases.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much of a mental attitude singing is, of just thinking, don't think of it that way, think of it da 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 da, all different patterns, all different patterns.
Amazing.
And then it flows easily. And the other thing, of course, is to do it to la 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 la.
Of course.
Because when you do the la 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 la, it brings the voice forward. Okay, yes, of course. But also, when you do a la 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 la, no air can escape.
Exactly. And if
So
you can do it to la la la,
you're not losing
do it
breath.
without.
Sorry?
If you can do it to la 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 la, then you can do it without.
Yes, because it gets in the right place and it stops air escaping, which means you have more breath for the whole phrase.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got another question, Della, and
Yeah.
this one is from Michael. He says, do you find time to watch any live opera? And are there any operas you've experienced as an audience member that particularly moved you and that have stuck in your mind?
Yes. I do watch live opera, of course. And particularly stuck in my mind, which would be Boris Godunov.
Ah, I haven't.
Parsifal.
Right. And were there any particular singers in those performances that you can name?
No.
No. Okay.
No, I wouldn't name. Well, it would be, one of them would be John Tomlinson's Boris, I have to say.
Yes.
And when I was starting in my career, one of my favorite singers was Leontine Price. But there's so many. No, I can't say any more than that, really, about that.
What do you think it was? It is about a performance, you know, when you watch somebody that absolutely just gets it right. What is it? That's something special. What is it?
It is always being in the character, in the role, and never stepping out of it, so that when you're having a duet or recit or whatever with person, always listen to what they are singing as if it's the first time you've heard it, so that your reactions are never, oh yeah, well, I knew that was coming. So I've never heard this before. Did you? I mean, I think it's a lovely thing to, when one's rehearsing recits and things, just to suddenly, if you can just change the plot so that makes somebody react differently. You can't do that on stage, of course you can't. But it's so important.
Absolutely.
To never, ever, and eye contact. Never just, I know you have to sing out front, but always connect with the person you're singing with. Yeah. And so it never stops living and breathing.
I totally agree. It's good when you watch it, when you see that happen. When it's the one thing that you don't want to see happen is that sort of glazed.
Exactly.
Where you see the singer going, oh, I'm singing a really difficult thing.
Where the show that really, it wasn't opera, it was the Book of Mormon.
Ah, yes.
And I sat very near the front. And do you know, there was not 1 second where the members of the cast didn't have a natural reaction or let their eyes, as you say, glaze over or wander. It was total eyeball to eyeball commitment.
Yeah, how incredible. I've also seen the Book of Mormon.
Even with a bad language.
I've got a question for you, Della. Did you ever have any on-stage disasters? Or like, you know, did you ever lose your skirt or fall over? Or, you know, did somebody not walk on stage, or did you miss your entrance? Did anything like that ever happen?
No, but yes. I tell you what, it was with the Scottish Opera, but it was at the Dominion Theatre.
Yeah.
And it was doing Legisto. I was doing Chlorine. And the Dominion Theatre has got one of the backstage crossover is underneath. It's one of the largest ones ever, I think. And I had to come in. The person singing before was Notte, and everything was in darkness. And I had to come in, and I'm very bad, apart from being technical, I'm very bad at my geography. So I always had to make sure I knew exactly where I was going to the stage. Anyway, got to the door because I had to come in through that side of the door, and it was locked.
Oh.
And I had to make it in. It was locked. I ran, and there was an offstage wind band. I ran round, And I said, the door, I can't get in, the door's locked. And the stage crew said, it isn't locked. What had happened, cutting a long story short, somebody had shut the door because it was supposed to be dark for Notte singing his first aria, and it was a fire door.
Oh no, so it didn't
and
open.
I could not get in. And I had to, somebody came and I did it. I went right through the offstage wind band, just started coming down this ramp and singing my first aria.
Oh no.
Everything stopped. And I thought, what have I done? What had happened? At the same time, there had been a fuse with the lights in the pit.
Oh no.
When the lights came on after Notting, the lights, nothing was happening. So we had to restart again. Was I relieved? Because I could get my breath back.
I know, I was just about to say, you must have been out of cough, dreading your aria.
Oh, that was it, you know, it sounds funny enough, but it was very, very nerve-wracking.
I bet.
Mm. Oh yes, one's always had. I remember in Carmen, the dress got tangled and the bottom frill got unwound and things like that. Managed.
You always got to just improvise on the spot. And,
absolutely, absolutely.
Comes naturally. It's all part of the fun.
Well, yeah.
I've got another question here from Sam. She says, really enjoying the chat and I'm learning so much. Would you ever consider writing a book on singing technique?
No.
Great.
End of. No.
End of.
People have done it better than I am sure. I might write a book, but it wouldn't be necessarily about technique.
What would it be about?
Life, singing, the stories.
Autobiography.
Connections. I'm not intending to do so. No.
No. Well, just a few more interviews then.
Yes, I'm very
amazing. Della, Albina says, Della Jones is my favourite human being.
Oh, Albina.
Oh, I think we all agree.
I'm touched. Oh.
Oh, so Della, singing to one side, I believe that you have a little friend joining you tomorrow.
Oh, there's nothing sacred in this life. Well, my beautiful Labrador died last year, and I've decided it's time to get. And I have a little friend, a new friend. He's 14, quite old, but he's had a troublesome few years, not from cruelty, but from deaths and illness. And he's at an Epsom animal home for animals, obviously dogs.
Yeah.
Anyway, cut a long story short, I've seen him and he's adorable. And he's visiting me for 3 hours tomorrow, and we're going to get to know each other. And hopefully he will like. I've already sung to him and played it in Tchaikovsky, so he didn't cringe.
Oh, that's amazing. I hope to see him on one of our coachings soon.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. His name is Chalky, which I don't like particularly, but I will call him Ciocchissimo.
Ciocchissimo, so Italian.
Exactamente.
It's very operatic talk, Chalky.
Well, we'll see, but you will see him on screen, no doubt.
Yes. TK22GE says, to ask you about Madame Butterfly and Della's toes.
Oh, I've forgotten about that. Oh, goodness. Yes, this was at the English National Opera, and it was the Graham Vick production, fabulous production. And screens go across. Suzuki is behind the screen, and they whiz, 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 whiz. And to get up to this screen, there was a very steep staircase, and it didn't have a rail down one side, so you had to keep very near. And I was too near the screen, and these are huge screens edged with iron, and it ran over my toe. And remembering that as Suzuki, I only had little tabi on, no shoes. no shoes.
Oh,
And I thought, and then I had to do the first act.
oh my
No, to do for Suzuki singing. And in the interval, my dresser came, and there was blood. Oh, and I said, I'm not going to. I said, I think my toes come off.
Oh my! And you just did the whole act anyway.
Yeah, I had to.
Oh,
And then I said, you must ask for a doctor to stick it back on. And stage manager said, Della, if your toes come off, you're not going on. But it hadn't. It had not come off. It was broken. It was. But that was very painful.
Oh, I can imagine.
Very.
Did it take the pressure off the nerves and the sort of everything else became so irrelevant? You just had to get.
Well, I was so happy that the toe hadn't come off actually in my tabby, because I thought, what am I going to do? Do I go to hospital with a toe in my pocket?
Oh no! Oh.
But it hadn't. It hadn't. And I did get a very big bunch, a big, wonderful bouquet of flowers from the management.
Oh, amazing. And you're still in one piece now. That's amazing.
Absolutely, I still have the toe.
Della, I just had one last question that came to my mind.
Yeah.
And I've forgotten what it was. Maybe it's time to finish. That's why.
So can I say something?
Yeah.
I would just like to say to all you lovely young artists, singers and repetiteurs, to keep courage, and all singers were everywhere. But for you, my special band of people, please keep strong, keep learning, keep enjoying some of the free time, which you may never get again, but enjoy, learn, and learn your recits backwards. And it's a pleasure, such a pleasure to work with you all and the whole staff at the National Opera Studio. And thank you for your friendship.
Oh, thank you, Della. I know that I'm speaking for the whole of the National Opera Studio team, but especially for the young artists. Like, we absolutely adore you. We're so grateful for everything that you pass on to us, for your radiance when we walk in the room. It really cheers us up. And you just fill the whole building with energy. And
noise. I know I'm noisy.
You're noisy, yeah, but we love it. You wouldn't have to sing without being noisy. That wouldn't be right.
Well, you're very kind and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, and so, Della, what's the first thing you're going to do when the lockdown is finished?
Come back to the National Opera Studio. Is that the right answer? Yes.
Yay! Absolutely. We can't wait to be reunited.
And have a jolly meal in a lovely restaurant.
Oh yes, we should have some drinks.
A good idea. Very good idea.
Great. So just a note to anybody who is watching, a huge thank you to you for tuning in wherever you are in the world. And this has been a wonderful experience, I'm guessing, for Della and for myself. And if you would like to know anything about the National Opera Studio, or if you still would like to donate some money, then please visit the National Opera Studio website and take care of yourselves. Okay, bye.
Thank you, Alex. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
And you, Della. Cheerio.
Bye-bye.